Who are you? What's your role? And where do you work?
My name is Matt Larray. I'm co-founder and CTO of SpeedScale, based out of Atlanta, Georgia, and we solve the problem of environment replication.
What are 3 emerging Kubernetes tools that you are keeping an eye on?
Well, I won't necessarily say tools as much as trends. So the first one is something called eBPF, which is a way of looking inside of the Linux kernel to inspect traffic going through, as well as other things. So I'm really excited about eBPF for security purposes. You can see that like Istio and Envoy are moving over to an eBPF-based sidecar. So I think that's going to revamp the way we do sidecars and make it a lot more available and easier. So that's one. Number 2, I'd say it's kind of interesting what's going on with the vClusters or virtual clusters. One of the big trends in Kubernetes, I think over the coming 5 years or so, is going to be trying to hit kind of hyperscale, right? Really hitting the biggest production workloads. And I think the virtual cluster stuff and the API gateway stuff that goes along with it is pretty interesting happening there as well. And then I think that one area I'd like to see more activity around is around handling things like databases and long-term storage on Kubernetes. I think there's going to be a lot of development and interesting trends happening there, because you still kind of can't put a database on Kubernetes and expect good things to happen.
Now, responding to some points that were made by guests on our podcast, when it comes to over-provisioning, Alexandra wrote an article about over-provisioning. What strategies have you found effective in controlling over-provisioning in large Kubernetes clusters?
So, over-provisioning, we tend to focus on kind of the big picture when it comes to over-provisioning. So, at my company, SpeedScale, we try to eliminate over-provisioning for development purposes. Now, that may not sound like a big deal, but like if you look at the most recent DORA report, they think 45% or more of the cost that you spend on cloud is actually just these quick, short-lived development environments. Somebody was testing something. Maybe you have maybe even have like a full test environment, those kind of things. We find that just going after that half of that spend is one of the biggest ways you can fight over provisioning in Kubernetes clusters. Another way is if you look at things like some of these centralized cloud systems like Spectro Cloud, things like that, that helps as well, is kind of giving really centralizing control inside of a platform team helps with the over-provisioning a lot, just because you get out of just basic waste as well. So,
in terms of observability and monitoring, Miguel explained that while monitoring deals with problems that we can anticipate, for example, a disk running out of space, observability goes beyond that and addresses questions you didn't even know you needed to ask. Does this statement match your experience in adopting observability in your stack?
Yes and no. So I did observability for about 20 years, and the big shift that I saw happening when people made the shift from observability to monitoring was actually a core technology change in the monitoring space. Pretty much for most of my career in observability, you were limited in what you could collect because storage of disk and transiting data was very expensive. But what you're seeing with a lot of the new monitoring and observability tools is they can just ingest anything. And that kind of comes from this like cloud data warehouse philosophy of like the Snowflakes and the Databricks and all these kind of new tools. Basically, they've separated compute from storage. And so I think that the part I agree with about that statement, the original statement that it can help you find the things you weren't looking for, is, well, that's what we were always trying to do with monitoring observability systems. But I think that this ability to store enormous amounts of data really does constitute a sea shift. And for us, what it encourages us to do is just log everything, put out events, just it causes as much exhaust fumes coming out of your app as possible. You'll get more out of observability. Whereas with monitoring, the focus was more on keeping a tight set of stuff. So I think I largely agree with that statement.
Cattle versus pets, infrastructure as code. Dan Garfield shared that your cluster only feels real once you set up ingress and DNS. Before that, it was just a playground where it didn't matter when stuff broke. What are your thoughts on this?
Everybody who works in technology knows that they must have no problems with that cluster, because the problem is always DNS. So, so I think what's being expressed there is something we see a lot in the large enterprises, is that Kubernetes is actually being used in anger now. Or it's, as one of my customer jokes, we use Istio in anger because it's the only way to use Istio. But what you're seeing now, I think, is a lot of folks are actually running the real deal, but that is also creating a problem for adoption. So you kind of see in enterprises, this platform engineering team is coming along. They're bringing ideas like Kubernetes, cattle versus pets, the whole 9 yards. And so they're slowly trying to get into these organizations. They've built a Kubernetes platform now. Well, I'm seeing this all over the place. And then it's like, okay, let's turn on the DNS. Let's actually get some traffic run through that. And that is creating a huge problem. We actually went through this before when in the virtual machine era, where everybody was switching over to like things like VMware. It's going to take some time, but I think it's part of the normal growing pains, and I don't think there's anything stopping the Kubernetes trend at this point.
Regarding the Kubernetes trend, so Kubernetes turned 10 years old this year. What should we expect in the next 10 years to come?
So right now, I don't know the exact market share percentages, but Kubernetes is probably 5% of production apps. But I think that that is going to multiply 100-fold. And the reason is actually organizational as much as it is technical. So organizations, they struggle, like pre-cloud, everybody had to have a networking expert, a server expert, hardware experts. You had to do power, air conditioning, all these different things, these disciplines. We skinnied all that down to just like the cloud build now, right? That's great. The problem is not everything has made it into something that Kubernetes can manage. And so I think what we're going to see is things like people trying to find solutions to the database problem in Kubernetes for the next 10 years, actually getting that last piece inside. And the reason I think that they'll do that is because they don't want people like these extra DevOps folks that they need around with like the specialty knowledge. They'd like to get everything consolidated into one set of people. And so you can do that with Kubernetes. You can manage the software. You can do software-defined networking. You can do the containers. You do the whole 9 yards. And it's really one set of skills. And I think organizations are going to do that. So I think 10 years from now, somebody will probably have solved the data problem on Kubernetes, because I don't think that's been solved yet. And I think it's basically going to be the default cloud platform. It's actually going to make cloud usable for a lot of organizations.
What's next for you?
So at SpeedScale, obviously I'm co-founder of SpeedScale. We do something called environment replication. Along with a lot of this cost-cutting focus, we are focused on the same thing. And we allow, what I want to get really good at is moving data out of production into pre-production environments for various things like testing, as well as cost cutting, like reducing cloud bill. So that's what I'm going to be focused on for the next few years.
How can people get in touch with you?
You can reach me on LinkedIn. You can reach me on Twitter. You can reach me via email, although that'd be pretty tough. But best thing is just to go to the speedscale.com webpage and fill out one of the forms, and we'll be in touch.